Hi, my name is Lark Kelsey. I'm walking through Merkle and Plummer's beginning with New Testament Greek. This is chapter 5, present indicative verbs. Today we'll be covering the basics of Greek verbs, starting with meaning. We tend to think of present tense as something that's pretty straightforward. However, there are different senses within the present tense. There's a progressive present. This is expressing an action that is currently in progress. They're all looking for you. The looking is taking place and is ongoing in the present. There's also the iterative present. This describes an action that is performed repeatedly or regularly or a state that is ongoing. Everyone who abides in him does not continue in sin. Then there's the historical present. This is describing a past event, especially in verbs of speaking or motion, possibly indicating a change in person or location. And they came to him, bringing a paralytic. These are events that happened in the past, but they use the present tense. So let's take a look at how to form a present tense verb in the Greek. So each of our verbs in Greek are formed by connecting different parts. I like to think of these as a math equation. This plus this plus this equals our verb. So then in Greek, you have your stem is the first part of and the main part of your verb. From the stem of the verb, you also add the connecting vowel. And finally, you add the personal ending. And altogether, we have luomen, and this is from the word luo. So this means we loose, or we are loosing. So here's what the present active indicative looks like for the word luo. Like I said, in the lexical form, you are going to get the present active indicative first person singular. So luo is your present active indicative first person singular and your lexical form. So you have luo, lues, lue, luomen, luete, luosin. And that little nu at the end of the third person plural that's in the parentheses, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. This is called a movable nu. It's sometimes added in the sentence when the verb is the last word in a clause. It's just a euphonic way that the Greeks like to kind of put an ending on the word. And then we have the present middle passive indicative. So we're still in the present indicative, but these are our middle passive words. So we have luomai, lue, luetai, luometha, lueste, and luontai. So looking at these endings, you have the present endings in the active and you have the present endings in the middle passive. And so you'll need to get familiar with these and memorize them. There are a couple of videos in other playlists that I have listed that can help you memorize these. One part of the morphology that can be tricky is determining the stem. You can determine the stem from the lexical form. So akuo is found you find the stem aku just by dropping that omega. And lego, you drop the omega and you get the leg stem. Ginomai, you drop the omai and you get the gin. And then erkomai, you drop the omai and you get erk. So these are how you would find the stem. So most of your words are going to end in an omega, most of your verbs. However, there are some that are middle only, and those end in omai in the lexical form. So if you have if you memorize your lexical form, you're going to know which words are middle only and which words can be active and or middle passive. So if you have a lexical form that ends in an omega like luo, you could have the active paradigm using the omega present active endings. For luo to be passive, something is being loosed, you would use the middle passive omai ending. So luomai would be I am loosing for myself, or I am being loosed, either a middle or a passive meaning. And you just determine whether it's middle or passive by the context of the rest of the sentence. However, in words that are middle only, words with their lexical form have the omai ending, these have generally take an active sense. So porevomai does not take a middle sense when you translate it. You would say porevomai would mean I am going. So you translate these middle only verbs with an active sense. So let's talk a little bit more about connecting vowels. So the connecting vowel will alternate between epsilon and omicron. So you'll have an omicron before the letters mu and nu, and an epsilon before other letters. So in some forms, like luo, luosine, lue, the connecting vowel is being transformed by that ending. Here you can see those connecting vowels in red. In the first person, you're going to have the omicron, which gets absorbed into the omega. In the second and third singular, you're going to have that epsilon. However, when you move over to the middle passive second singular, you're going to see that epsilon becomes an eta and iota subscript. And then in your plural endings, you're going to be able to clearly see those connecting vowels in all of the endings. So why is the connecting vowel important? Noticing which vowels are in between these endings is important for determining the mood of the verb. In this chapter, all of our verbs are going to indicative, but in future chapters, you're going to see that sometimes that connecting vowel can change. The indicative mood indicates a fact. The writer is making an assertion that that action is a fact, or they're asking a question that can be answered with a yes or no. So for example, in Romans 5:1, therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God. That little connecting vowel can be the difference between an indicative or a subjunctive mood. And so in the first example, you see the omicron is connecting the ending and shows it's in the indicative mood. So we have peace. However, if that were an omega, this would be in the subjunctive, and that would be let us have, or we may have. So this is a very important little letter. And the last part of our morphology are those personal endings. And since we want to learn the present indicative sense, we're just going to decide right now for this chapter that the stem plus our present personal ending is going to be how we create verbs. So when we look at our personal endings are going to tell us who is the subject of this action. So here, we don't have to say he is loosing or we are loosing. Luomain is already saying that information for us. So luomain is we are loosing. Now that we know how to put all of it together, how do we take it all apart? That is called parsing. Parsing is what you do when you provide all the information. You're going to provide the lexical form, and that's the dictionary form, that present active first singular. You're also going to provide the tense, and right now, all you have is present tense. Eventually, you're going to have 6 different options to choose from, but right now, you just have present. So present, and then you're going to need to answer, is this active, middle, or passive? And in the present tense, you're only going to have middle passive as an answer. So you can either have present active or present middle passive. In the indicative mood is all that we have right now. So eventually you'll add subjective, imperative, and optative. For the person and number, you're going to have first, second, and third, either singular or plural. So when you parse a word, you should give all of this information. So let's work on parsing a verb. Here are the things we're going to need to know, and our verb is luosine. So lu, you see that right there, you have your partial stem. And a lot of times, if you're not sure what the lexical form is, drop the ending and just add an omega or an omai and see if that jogs your memory. So this is from luo. And we only have present tense right now, so we know it's present. This is from the active form, and this is indicative. Now, your professor may want you to write IND to distinguish it from, eventually you'll get the imperative, IMP. So IND or IMP might be ways that you write this out. This is from the third person plural, and a translation would be they are loosing. Let's try another one. So this is poreve, and this is from porevomai. The tense is present, and the voice is middle. This is a middle only word. And so it's a middle, but it's also an indicative in the second person singular. But because it is in the middle only, you will still translate it with an active sense. So you would say, you are going. And a quick note on crasis. It's not specifically defined in this chapter, but crasis is when two words are merging into one. And sometimes the resulting word will keep that breathing mark, even though ego this is the word for I, and kai is the word for and. Kai ego together is kego. And this is a word that has been merged into two. It's kind of like an apostrophe situation, or like the word can't. It's two words that come together. And so this will keep its own breathing marks. So if you notice that in your vocabulary this week, good eagle eye student, you will notice why that is. If you're ever have any questions, back in the back of the book, there are tons of resources for you to look these words up. There's a dictionary of different words that can help you as well. And before we look at your vocabulary, you may want to start looking back at the back of your book. Starting in page 283, your appendix is going to be a very helpful place. That is where your paradigms will start being listed for you. And you don't want to wait until you get to chapter 24 to start referencing things in the back of the appendix, because those may be helpful for you when you're not quite sure where to find it in the book. So you're adding a few more verbs, a few more nouns, and a few additional words. Baptizo, I baptize, immerse, dip. Therapevo, I heal. The word therapeutic is similar and helps me remember that. Crazo, I cry out. Angelos, angel, messenger. Notice that nasal gamma there, the gamma nasal. Mathetes, a disciple, follower. Oklos, a crowd. Prophetes, prophet. And you'll notice that prophetes and mathetes both end with the eta sigma, and that's not an error, but we'll discuss that more in the next chapter. But notice that it is a masculine noun. That's why you're learning these with the article. Gar is a word that means for, because. Eki means there, in that place. Kago and I, we talked about that one. Un, this is a word that means then, so, therefore. Hutos, even though that breathing mark is there on that second word, don't miss it. Hutos, in this manner, thus, so. Te means and, but. Ook, and ooks all mean no or not. This is similar to the way that we have the word a or an, depending on what the next word follows. So ook, and ooks all mean no. This is a way to negate a verb. And then we also have uki, which also means no, but more emphatic. And so these are your vocab words. This is chapter 5. You're doing great.